All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over this 7 tutorial article on getting started with the Entity Framework or EF6 database using MVC5. In the first part of the series, we created our database and I modified what the author had. I did it differently, and I have different records, of course. I made it a Rankin Technical College database. All right, so we did that. I did use their structure for the databases. Next, we went to creating the web application and data models. All right, where we created we had our web app and we came in, it was an MVC project. We checked to make sure we had Entity Framework 6 or above. We went in then and we right-clicked on models and chose Add a New Model, where we used EF Designer from database. All right, it already had filled in our connection string for us. Okay, so we didn't have to do that. Then we went in and in the Entity Data Model Wizard, we went and checked and made sure that our course table that we created in the first document, the enrollment and the student were all in there. They were, which gave us this entity relationship data model. All right, and we double checked to make sure that's what ours looked like, and it did. That was the second one. Then we went into generating views where we used scaffolding. All right, we did an add new scaffolded item. We did this twice, and for both of them we chose MVC controller with views using Entity Framework. All right, came up, we used student first. Mine is Rankin Technical College or whatever it is, so that's what I use. We had a students controller, which created a students controller under our controllers folder, and a students file under our views folder, which gave us our CRUD operations, our create, edit, all right, delete, etc. Then we did the same thing with our enrollments. Now you may or may not have noticed, but we didn't do that with our course. Remember that our course file is a lookup table. All right, so we're using that to bridge or to be able to link our two tables together. All right, so we don't have to create a separate model for that. Then we went in and on our home page, right below the Jumbotron, we used a couple Razor statements, and we'll talk about Razor in class also, to add these action links, which are just hyperlinks, which said list of students and list of enrollments. Both of them went to an index.html file. The list of students opened up the index.html file in our students controller. The list of enrollments opened up the index.html file in our enrollments controller. And then we went and noticed that after we clicked list of students, that we got the list of students. Again, mine was different because I had different students. We went in and created me as a student. I modified me as a student. And then finally I deleted me as a student. And then we went through and did the same thing with enrollment, where I took an existing student who was in there, created a new record, double checked to make sure, tried to put in something non-numeric for the grade, and I got the same message that you saw here. But then I went in and added a new student record, modified it, and deleted it. All right, so that was the third one, I believe. Then we went into changing the database. And with changing the database, what we did was we added a new field to our database. And that being, we added a middle name field. All right? And you can see where we put it. We literally went into the TSQL window and put it between the first name and the enrollment date. But that's not where it physically was when we printed it out later. After we did that, we double checked to make sure, looking in our Server Explorer, that the new field was in. So we right mouse clicked on tables, right mouse clicked on student to make sure that field was in there, and it was. But we had to then go back into our entity relationship model or entity data model and right mouse click on it and choose update model from database, because you'll notice that that middle name is not in there. Once we did that, we had to tell it that it was the student table that we wanted to update. That was the only one. So we clicked finish, and when we did, it did update it, and then we had the middle name in there. So that's where we've left off. I know that was a little bit of a long, like 5 minutes, almost 5 minutes introduction, but this brings us to a very short thing as far as what's left, And it's on the Entity Framework database first with with MVC, ASP.NET MVC, customizing a view. So as mentioned here in this part of the series, we're going to change the automatically generated views. We're going to make it more tabular looking in nature. All right. So as it says here, the generated code provides a good starting point for the application, but it does not necessarily provide all of the functionality that you want. All right. So it says you can customize the code to meet the particular requirements of your application. Currently, your app does not display the enrolled courses for the selected student. In this section, you will add the enrolled courses for each student to the details view for the student. So it says we are to open up, and I don't even have my project open. I apologize for that. So I'll open that up right now. All right, we had this from before, and what we are told to do by the author here is to open up the students details.cshtml file. So, students details.cshtml. There's the file. Every line that starts with the @ sign like this, these are razor lines. So don't worry that sometimes you get the red squiggly underlines, and I don't know why, but you do. All right, so it says open that below the last DL tab, but before the closing div tag, add the following code. And I'm going to modify this code just a tad. Okay, so again, I want to make sure I'm putting it in the right place. Below the last DL, but before the closing div. So below the last DL, which would be right here, but before the last div. So we'll paste that in right here. All right, the only thing that I'm going to change, we can come in here. Let's use table striped. So we've got the alternating look, and table condensed. So it's a little smaller. All right. Other than that, I kept everything that they have here. So we can go back to the document, and it says, this code creates a table that displays a row for each record in the enrollment table for the selected student. The display method renders HTML for the object, which is model item, that represents the expression. You use the display method to make sure that the value is formatted correctly based on its type and the template for that example. For example, they mention, in this example, each expression returns a single property from the current record in the loop. So it should look more like this when we bring it up. So we're going to get a record for each student. Now, the way I've got it set up is each student is only taking one class. We could change that if we wanted to. But let's save it and run it and see if we get something that looks more along the lines of this. All right. So we are to browse to the student's index and select details for one of the students. If you remember previously when we came in here and ran this and we selected details, nothing magical happened. Well, let's run it. Notice it's coming right up on student details, which is what we want. Oh, bad request. Most likely causes. Check the failed request tracing logs for additional information. Detailed error. Now it's giving me an HTTP status code. I've not run into this before, so interesting enough, I guess. Let's start by doing this. Let's go back and let's remove what we'd added. All right. So Control X, and we'll save it. Control S, and let's run this again and see if it does come up or if I get an error when I run it from here. If it comes up here, no, I don't. It didn't. So let's see. It could be that there's actually nothing wrong with this, but it's where I'm running it from. So let me go back. Let me go back to, I don't know. Rather than running it from details, let's go to our I don't know if this will work from here or not, but we'll try to run it from here. And peruse our way over to students. Shouldn't be getting an error because, there we go. All right, so I want to go to here and we want to type in students. All right, so now the new code we added was for here for details. Right now, as you notice, it's not doing a whole heck of a lot, but let's put our code back. Oh, we do get that. But we wanted to get that other information. So now we're just getting an individual student information. So let's stop the run. We know we've got to go to students. So let's put this back in again. So we'll come back to where our code is, back in our details. And again, I'm going to come right back here where I was, paste that in. All right, like I said, I think it was the only problem, I think, was where we were calling this from. So that's, I think, why we got the error. So let me go back to here. I'll go back again to my layout CS HTML. Let's run this. Hopefully we won't get an error now. All right, so we're going to come into here. We're going to go to students. Now when we click details, let's see if we get that information. I'm not sure if I was at the right one. I think I clicked edit instead of details. Try details. And there is the information. Okay, so you'll notice I'm going to go back. This is Tony. I'm going to go back to Tony on here. All right, and I'm going to add here. I'm going to create a new one. And the last name again, well, of course I had to pick somebody with a really tough last name. Let's go back to the list. Let me grab his last name. All right, so we'll create a new. The last name again will be here. First name will be Anthony, which is Tony. The enrollment date, let's change the date, okay? And we will make it 01/08/2018. All right, so we are hopefully creating a new record. We won't give them a middle name. That's not a big thing. We're going to click create. All right, we've got that. Now if we go to details, guess what? It's not going to change because right now we haven't created any courses here. So we have to peruse our way over to the courses, all right, or enrollment, one of those, and add stuff. So course or courses. And I think we can't go over to that directly. We've got to go over to enrollment. There it is. So if I come in here and I put in a new record, notice it's AWD1111. So let's go and create a new one. All right, and let's give them a grade. We'll give them a 4.0. All right, and we will change, we will add here AWD, let's make it 1100. Create. There's the new record right there. All right. You're starting, hopefully, to see how all of this stuff kind of flows together. All right, and still probably we don't have that. Okay, but we will end up adding stuff. You'll have to take my word for it. For everybody else, when we go back, the way that we added them, if I go back to the list, come on, and for instance, if I bring up Andrew Wolf and I click details, it'll have the class that Andrew took. I should have taken it when I created this and had a bunch of classes for each student. Didn't do so. It's not a big thing. All right, so in this particular part here, we went through there and you did see this. All right, so we are finished. Very short little tape. In this next example here, which is quite a bit longer, we are going to enhance this by using data validation. So I'll be back to do that very shortly.